campaigns and ad groups. So we've laid out the structure of a Google Ads account. We've said you're going to have one account and you're going to have at least one campaign. You may end up having lots and lots of campaigns, but within that campaign, remember, is just a container, and it contains these things called ad groups. Very important. The naming here gives you a clue. So they're called ad groups, not keyword groups. So think of it first and foremost in terms of the ads that you want to show. Let's come back to our lawyer example from before. We had a lawyer who did three things from memory. I think there was family law, criminal law, and property stuff, property conveyancing. That's at least three totally different areas of the business, and therefore, remember we said the whole game was relevance? Therefore, we need at least three different ads. And for bonus points, we're going to have a couple of different ads for each section of the business. But we've got at least three different areas, at least three different ads. Therefore, we need three different ad groups for this. Now, you've then got a choice. I know I need three different ad groups. Why? Because I've got different ads, and when someone clicks on an ad, and we didn't talk about that so much, but when someone clicks on an ad, you get to choose where you send that person to on your website. So my property stuff is going to go to the property page on my website. The criminal law is going to go to the criminal law section of my website, and so on. You could choose to set up three different campaigns, one campaign for each section of your business, or you could choose to have those three ad groups live in the same campaign, the same container. It's really personal choice, but the question I would ask yourself to think about this is, what's the outcome? Is the outcome different for these three parts of the business? In particular, what am I willing to spend on this outcome? What's my CPA? Remember my CPA, my cost per action or my cost per lead? If I'm willing to spend $50 to get a property conveyancing client, but I'm willing to spend $2,000 to get a family law lead in the door, then I would probably put those two things in separate campaigns because the cost per lead is so vastly different. But if the cost per lead, the target cost per lead that you have is roughly the same for all of those, then by all means, put them in the same campaign. It's just less things to manage. It's going to be easier, especially when you're starting out, to just have to manage the one campaign and three ad groups inside that one campaign. The way I used to describe ad groups is, think of it as a bucket. And it's a bucket that contains some keywords, and it's got an ad slapped on the front. So let's stick with our lawyer thing here. We've got some property conveyancing keywords, non-brand keywords that we've brainstormed, and they're inside this property conveyancing bucket, and it's got my property conveyancing ad slapped on the front of that bucket. The reason that we need three ad groups here, and not one giant ad group, is because we want to be as relevant as possible and show the person searching for property conveyancing, we want to show them a property conveyancing ad. The family lawyer person over here, we want to show them a family lawyer ad. If we put all of those keywords into one giant bucket, we still only get to put one ad on the front of that bucket. And that would mean someone searching for, someone matching those three different types of keyword would all see the same ad. And the only ad we could write at that point is, we're a lawyer, we do all these things and we're great, and that's not very relevant. So the reason we have different ad groups, think of it now as three small buckets instead of one giant bucket. Three small buckets, each bucket contains a few relevant keywords, might be one, might be 10 or 20, but a few relevant keywords and a relevant ad stuck on the front of that bucket. We can have multiple ad groups inside the one campaign, but we don't want to just have one huge ad group. We're not going to get the best results doing that. Now, the other thing that an ad group contains, particularly when you're starting out, is a bid. So you see now, while we've structured things in the way that we have, we've talked about messaging, the ad on the front of the bucket. We've talked about targeting, the keywords that go in the bucket that choose who we show ads to. And we talked about bidding. How much are we willing to offer Google when somebody clicks on our ad? And now we're putting all of the pieces together by talking about the structure of your account and those campaign settings that we need to set this thing up so that it all works. So hopefully now all these threads are starting to come together and you're starting to go, I get it. I finally get it. Why didn't he tell me this at the start of this 2 hours ago? Well, we've been building up bit by bit to this point. Now we still haven't started going and playing inside of an account. We'll go do that soon, but we're starting to see how the pieces fit together. And personally, I think that getting the thinking right is vastly more important than the tactics. And which bit goes where, and where do I put this keyword now, and how do I change a bid? All of that will make sense now. But if we'd started with the tactics and the tasks and looking inside of an account in the first video, and we didn't have the thinking, we didn't have the framework, then I think, yeah, maybe it would have worked for a few days and then it wouldn't have made sense. You'd get confused. You'd waste a ton of money. So hopefully you'll agree with me that doing it this way has worked. If you do have questions still at this point, which bit isn't making sense? I would suggest firstly revisiting the module. Is it the tracking? Is it the messaging and the ads? Is it the bidding? Which bit doesn't make sense? Or maybe just keep going, watch the rest of this course first, and then I think it'll make sense by the time you get to the end of the last module, which is optimization. I think all the pieces will start to fall into place.